Hey, Mike. This week we have a fantastic podcast with Lila Quintiliani from the Military Officers Association of America, so MOAA. It's a great podcast. She lets us know all the benefits that are available um, to everyone. Believe it or not, there's some things that MOAA does for everyone. There's some other things that are just available to members. But it's a great resource, especially for those who are transitioning. I'm not entirely sure that it's not that people know how much MOA can help with a military transition through retirement. So I'm excited, Mike.
Yeah, I definitely took advantage of it during my transition, some of the webinars and just resources they have on the webpage. Found out about MOA and joined later in my career, but it is a great organization. They do a lot of things for all across the board military. So let's dive in and find out what all they do.
Welcome to Operation Retirement Readiness, where Amy and Mike, two certified financial planners, talk about how military members can prepare for transition and how veterans can prepare for ultimate retirement. This podcast represents the views of the hosts and any guest. It is for informational purposes only and should not be considered tax, financial, or legal advice. All information is regarded to be from reliable sources. The hosts are not responsible for any losses, damages, or liabilities that may arise from the use of this podcast. This podcast is not intended to replace professional advice.
All right. Today we've got a great podcast. We've got Lila Quintiliani. Hope I said that right. From MOA, the Military Officer Association of America. She's going to be telling us about what they do and what her specific role is and how some of the resources are definitely applicable for folks getting ready to embark on their retirement journey. So, Lila, you mind giving us a little bit of background and just what you specifically do at MOA?
Sure. My title is Program Director for Financial and Benefits Education and Counseling. I usually just call myself a finance and benefit counselor. I am an accredited financial counselor and a chartered financial consultant. And in the past, I worked on military installations with active duty service members and did financial counseling. And then I moved into the nonprofit sphere where I've been working at MOA for the past almost 5 years, helping members understand their military benefits. I'm actually part of our transition team, which is really geared toward helping transitioning service members trying to take the next step in their professional life. So, aside from myself, I concentrate on finance and benefits, but I have colleagues who help folks, with their resumes and finding jobs and finding what they want to do in life when they grow up and that kind of thing. So,
And hopefully you're comfortable with sharing this, but you have also walked in the shoes of some of the service members in terms of, as an active duty spouse. Maybe you can fill us in on that as well.
yeah. Well, I'm prior service military, but I only served a few years, and then I am the spouse of an active duty uh, Army officer. So I've I kind of have a foot in many worlds at the same time, I guess. The veteran space, the military community, the spouse community. So, I like to think that I can kind of understand and empathize and sympathize with folks that I talk to.
That's awesome. So tell us a little bit more about MOA. We were chatting a little bit before this about, while I was on active duty, I didn't necessarily really understand the MOA mission. Can you share with our audience what does MOA do? What's its purpose?
Yeah, I mean, primarily we're a nonprofit, nonpartisan legislative advocacy organization, and we have 10 registered lobbyists who go up to Capitol Hill, and they're seeking to protect the entire military community's pay and earned benefits. And so that I would say is our main purpose out there, but we also have a very strong charitable mission that dates back almost 3/4 of a century. So MOA Charities which includes the MOAA Scholarship Fund and our Crisis Relief Program and our community outreach programs. We have that too. And yeah, so those are, I would say, are our two big things at the 10,000 foot level, so to speak.
Yeah, that's great. Like we were saying, a lot of times I think early in your career, like Amy said, didn't find out about or really dig into it till after, retiring. And, I was definitely later in my career, somebody said, hey, you really ought to look at this organization. They're out there fighting for you, type thing. So yeah, that's great. And like you said, yes, it's military officer association, but you're out there advocating across the spectrum for any of the benefits that we earned in the pay, that making sure that those things are taken care of, and the legislators are aware of the issues within the military. So that's great. And can you just hit a little bit on what membership, who can be a member of MOAA?
Yeah, it's anyone who was an officer or had formal, you don't have to be a retired officer. You could be currently serving, former officers, and also spouses of former officers. We have a large, gosh, I want to say it's like 10% or so of our membership is actually surviving spouses. So we have a very vocal, active surviving spouse chapter. And so and we also, it's not just, a lot of people unfortunately forget about this. It's not just the uniform services that we serve, but it's also, not just the armed services, which are, Army, Navy, Air Force, Marine, Space Force. We're used to hearing about those, but the uniform services like public health, NOAA, well, Coast Guard is also included with the armed services, but so we have all the branches. We really serve all the branches.
Now, you mentioned that your official title is that you're, a financial and benefits counselor.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe expand a little bit on what you mean by that. Are you doing individual counseling, or is it mainly around education in larger groups and things?
Yeah, sometimes it's education one-on-one, but it's mostly around education, information, referral, helping people figure out what their benefits are. I don't do like one-on-one financial planning. We have over 350,000 members. And so there's just two of us, and we just don't have the bandwidth for that. So, but we do tell people, hey, we think you should see a financial professional, a fee-only financial planner like you guys. We tell folks that kind of thing, and help them figure out how to vet, a financial professional. But we mostly do education, outreach, whether it's in classes, webinars, calls from our members, that kind of thing. And not just on financial benefits, but a lot of folks don't understand how to navigate medical benefits, how military medical benefits interact with Medicare. They don't understand VA benefits. So a lot of these things that they don't understand, we help answer their questions on.
And is that for only members, or can anyone give MOAA a call? How does that look?
Anyone can give us a call, but if you want to talk to me or my colleague, you should be a member, a paying member. Now you can be a basic member, and that's free, and that you have access to our newsletter, which goes out to, I think, about 375,000 folks. I'm not sure exactly on our subscription right now, but we every week we send out a newsletter with the latest information on different pieces of legislation and other news that can affect the military and veteran community. We have a legislative action center where you can see like all the legislation that is related to pay and benefits, and where it is, kind of like it's been introduced in the House, it's been introduced in the Senate, and you can use that to send letters to your elected representatives. So all of that is open. We have a lot of information on our website that's also accessible, and we have monthly webinars that folks can register for. You guys have given some of our webinars, actually. And even non-members can sign up and they'll get a link to the recording, good for 30 days. So there's a lot of resources. And then we have anything that is kind of veteran related. We try to put like veterans benefits like concurrent receipt and navigating VA benefits that we also have in front of our paywall so that folks can access that. So that's available to anybody. Even if you're not eligible to be a basic member, meaning you're not an officer, you can access a lot of that.
Sounds like
Yeah,
a
that's
lot of
great.
really great resources that, won't cost anything, maybe a little bit more access if you are a paying member. So that's awesome. Um, Now our podcast is really focused on helping people get through the military transition into military retirement. What are some things that you can do to help people through that transition process? What benefits are available for MOAA members?
Well, as I said, I'm part of the transition team, so I have colleagues that really work with more like the employment side of things, and they do resume reviews and LinkedIn profile reviews and information on, federal employment and all that kind of stuff. More the employment side of things, and also kind of counseling, like figuring out what you want to do. We have a whole series called Dare to Dream that does things like that. And then I help, and my colleague helps with deciding, evaluating employer benefits, trying to navigate what to do with your TSP versus, your new employer plan, understanding how civilian and military benefits sort of mesh together or not, as the case may be. And also, I mean, not everyone is transitioning directly from the military to a civilian career. They might be in their, because military is, I forget the statistics, but I want to say that most people don't even last in their first post-military job by, beyond like a year. So where they are also for the second and third job, so um, we have a lot of those resources, and actually my team is focused on that transition process, whether it's the benefit side and applying for VA benefits and things like that, or the actual career side.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, I remember, doing some of the webinars and checking out the information as I was transitioning, and super helpful resources out there that you guys have, and um, you know, like you said, on the LinkedIn stuff, and just things that you may not, you probably have never done, or it's been, if you're retiring 20 plus years before, since you've done a resume type thing. So a
Yeah.
lot of good options out there
I
for figuring it out.
My husband's just starting the transition process himself, and he's he's prior service, so he's been in since he was like 18. So he actually has never really even had a resume, like a
Yeah.
civilian resume. And yeah, and I talk to a lot of folks who are ready to pay hundreds of dollars for doing these things, but even our premium, our annual members, can access the kind of resume review and interview prep and all that kind of thing. So I do think it's a good benefit that people don't realize, because if you're ready to pay hundreds of dollars, why not pay like 60 something dollars and and join MOAA for a year or two and then see if you like it.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's great. So, anything along the lines of where you see people reaching out when they're maybe getting ready for, final retirement, they've done multiple jobs, but any information there that is relevant?
Well, I'm sure you guys do this all the time, but that transition from TRICARE into TRICARE for Life and Medicare comes as a big shock to folks, because they don't realize the Medicare premiums can be quite high. And so they are not prepared mentally or financially for that. Hopefully we catch them and can give them a little bit of an idea of what's coming down the road, so they can maybe make some tax planning and other financial decisions But that is the big thing that I would say we answer the most questions on, is that transition, understanding what kind of benefits there are, understanding the choices and the options for Medicare and how TRICARE for Life fits in. And then a lot of folks may even have civilian insurance that they could have instead of going on Medicare and TRICARE for Life and trying to kind of weigh the pros and cons there. So that is the big thing I see, and just folks just are completely blindsided by that. I mean, I have to say, even though I was a financial counselor and I was counseling in the active duty community, like I was not anywhere near Medicare age, so I didn't know it myself, and it was something I learned and was shocked by, and I'm glad I learned it in plenty of time to make plans. But yeah, it's that is one of the big things that we deal with.
Yeah, and I mean, it is nice to know that there's resources like MOAA where, because not everyone wants to work with a financial advisor or financial planner, or has the means to do so. So it's nice to know that MOAA is out there. I see a ton of questions in social media around, TRICARE for Life, and navigating all of that. So it's nice to know that there is a resource that people can go to for a relatively inexpensive cost, just to get some questions answered. And maybe there's webinars. I'm sure there's webinars that you guys have done in the past, and recordings are available. Let's turn now towards some of the charitable work that you all are doing with the I think you called it the Crisis Response
Crisis
Fund,
Relief Fund,
Crisis
yeah.
Relief, and then scholarships. If you want to kind of give us an
Yeah.
overview of each of those.
So the Crisis Relief, the scholarship fund goes back about 77 years, and we've given out, I think I would have to find the stats. I believe last year was $18 million that we gave out. And I think since the beginning of, the program, it's about $175 million. And typically it is a mix of an interest-free loan, the scholarship fund, interest-free loan plus a grant component. And if you guys know, I'm sure that, even the federally subsidized direct student loans are not interest-free. The interest rates are not low either right now. So an interest-free loan is a really great thing. And it doesn't, it doesn't displace any kind of school funding, scholarships, GI Bill that you might have. So you can have it on top of all that. And then, of course, there's the grant component to it as well. So that's a really, really great program. It is, like I said, been around 3/4 of a century plus, and has helped thousands of students over the years. And it's open not just to children of military officers, it's children of currently serving, whether you're officer or enlisted, or anyone who is retired, whether officer or enlisted, can access this program and apply. And
Yeah.
and
No,
then
it's I was gonna say it's great. And I think Amy, your daughter, has taken advantage of it. My daughter has. So yeah,
my daughter has too. So
okay. So yeah.
yeah, it's a great program, and like I said, the fact that it doesn't displace other aid or other funding is really powerful and very helpful. And then the other program I mentioned is the Crisis Relief Fund. That's newer. It's only been around since COVID. But we've given out, I think last year it was almost $500,000 in grants, and it's for folks who are experiencing a financial crisis, whether it's because of a natural disaster. We had lots of folks after wildfires in California, or the hurricane that swept through like the Asheville area, etc. We had a lot of applications because there's something like over 12 million prior service folks who did not retire, because, as you know, only about 18% of people who serve in the military retire. So they didn't retire, and they aren't really accessing VA benefits. So they kind of fall into this gap, and there's nowhere that they can turn because they're not really eligible for the aid societies, etc. And so the crisis relief program was started with that goal in mind, to serve that kind of underserved audience. And we've had, I have the honor to serve on the board that reads the applications, and some of them are just so heartbreaking. Folks that even just a small grant can help get them back on their feet and back on, they just need to be able to pay. Something happened and they can't pay their utility bill. And because they can't pay their utility bill, they don't have internet. And because they don't have internet, they can't, search for a job and all that. Or their car needs a repair, and without reliable transportation, they can't get to work, et cetera. So that program, like I said, started just during COVID and has really, taken off. And last year it was like, I think, about $450,000 in grants, and we're trying to ramp it up even more. And then the MOAA Charities also does a lot of outreach funds. Like when I'm sent out sometimes across the country to give briefings and education and outreach, and they pay to send me out, to do things like that. So lots of stuff that MOAA Charities is supporting.
And if there's, groups or, well, I'll just leave it at groups. If there's groups of folks who would be interested in, getting some education, are they able to, contact MOAA and ask for, whether it's a webinar or an in-person?
Yeah, the MOAA page, MOAA.org, has a lot of the information on there. The charities have their own website that you can find it from the MOAA page. We have an events page on, if you go to MOAA.org and then click on the events page, that has all the upcoming webinars. And then if you're a member, a premium or life member, you do get access to our entire archive catalog of all the cataloged webinars. And we have, so basically the starting point is generally MOAA.org.
Yeah, that's great. Like, we were talking before, I wasn't even aware of the charitable the relief fund. So it's
Yeah,
newer, and so hopefully the people that listen to this, if you know of situations where somebody could use it, please pass the information on and get the word out there, because that's a great additional mission. So
it's a good resource. And we've even had, I was telling you that before we started recording, that during the shutdowns, we've had lots of folks, especially like public health and NOAA folks, who were not getting paid. And so we're reaching out to the Crisis Relief Fund to help, bridge the gap, because they, had no pay coming in. And annuitants had no pay, and retirees had no pay either. So
yeah,
it was,
and I admitted at the beginning, I really kind of didn't understand what MOAA was or how important it could be to service members. So for people listening, pass the resource along, and to consider how you can support other veterans yourself, whether it's through MOAA, becoming a member, or donations, things like that. Because this is fantastic, Lila. I really appreciate what you're doing there, you specifically, because I tend to encounter you from MOAA more than anybody else. So I really appreciate what you're doing. Kind of as we wrap up, just a couple more questions for you. Reflecting back, like over the last 5 years since you've been at MOAA, what would you say is, sort of either your favorite part of the job, or a time where you felt, really inspired by what you're doing at MOAA?
I would say, I to use the word favorite is probably not appropriate, but probably the most meaningful thing that I feel like I do is talk to surviving spouses, because I find that a lot of veterans and service members have unfortunately not engaged in financial planning, or have not had conversations with their spouse. And so they need someone to help navigate what their benefits could be, how to apply for those benefits. I've talked to folks who have no idea if they even have benefits. They don't know if their spouse had enrolled in the survivor benefit plan. They don't know any of that kind of thing. And it's just, you do feel gratified when someone tells you, like, you've helped me so much. And, but it also shows me that there's a definite gap in knowledge and preparation there on the part of retirees and service members, that they're not really having those conversations, and they're not prepared, they don't have an estate plan in place. And I always am astounded when we get a call from like an 80-year-old member who says that they want to start their estate plan, that they decided they might as well have a will. And I'm like, well, good thing. I'm glad that you're doing this now, but really, like, even when you're 30, you need to have a will. If you have any loved ones at all that might be depending on you, you should have some sort of estate plan in place. So it does give me, a good feeling when I can help someone, because, when you're grieving and trying to deal with that, the emotional side of things, it's very hard to navigate the benefit side of things.
And I have one other question that we didn't hit, we didn't even put in the outline, but I thought of it as we were going through.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about the chapters that are also out there that, beyond, you're at MOAA Central, but there are, chapters around the country.
Right. We, and I don't have the statistics on the number of chapters that we have, I'm sorry, but we have a chapter and council system, so that at, lots of geographic areas, some more so than others, like Florida is very active, because there's lots of chapters there, but they, folks can belong to a geographic chapter and to the national association as well. Some of them are very active and give out grants of their own. A lot of them are focused on legislation on the state level, because MOAA only focuses on national legislation, but there's a lot of state legislation, like with taxes on military benefits, like, annuities and retiree pay. So anything that's state level, if there's, then the MOAA council at that state would be the one to be trying to deal with that, because we only deal with national legislation. And we have virtual chapters too. The surviving spouse chapter is very active, but it's a virtual chapter. So you can go on our website, and there's a way to access and find your closest geographic chapter.
As we wrap up here, is there anything that we missed that MOAA is doing that you'd like to share with us?
I would like to highlight that we have some publications that I think are really great, and I'm not just saying that because I helped to write them, but I mean, I think we have some unique ones that you don't see elsewhere, like our TRICARE for Life publication. And we have a concurrent receipt publication that is really good. And I think I have not seen anywhere else anything like this. And those are things that members can access as our publications. Some of them we have hard copies, but all of them we have digital copies of, some we have hard copies. And then we have a survivor publication that I worked on about just under 2 years ago, that I also think is really good for both helping preparing, like, for the veteran or the retiree or the currently serving person to prepare for their eventual passing away, but also for the survivor to deal with it after. So those are just like 3 of our publications that I think are pretty good and fairly unique. So that's something else I wanted to highlight.
Yeah, that's great. And so if folks want to kind of follow along with MOAA or you, I know you mentioned MOAA.org. Anywhere else you direct folks to check out?
Well, they can also call the MOAA call center. Our call center is 800-234-6622. And we do have, phone reps that can talk more about the different benefits of membership and the discounts, et cetera, that you get with membership and the benefits, other benefits. And then they also, If you're a non-member, they will try to answer or guide you in the best way that they can. You also can email us at the benefits team at beninfo, like BENINFO.org, at MOAA.org. Sorry, beninfo at MOAA.org. And then, like I said, we try to give you an answer. If you're a member, we're going to give you a much more detailed answer, but we always try to point folks in the right way, in the right direction.
Well,
Well,
thanks,
that's great.
Lila. Really appreciate your time today. I've always appreciated all the fantastic information. I've met you at conferences, things like that, and all of the information that you share is incredibly helpful, even to financial planners who work with military people all the time. The benefits are complex and sort of endlessly changing. So having somebody like you to always, stay on top of the latest and greatest has been super helpful to me, and hopefully to our audience today. I really appreciate your time today.
Well, thank you so much for having me on. And I learn things every day. So there is so much in this space to learn about, and there's always something changing with legislation too. So, thank you for having me on and inviting me. And I think you guys are great. So,
All
Thank you
right.
so much.
Yeah, thanks.
To get transcripts, show notes, or more information, go to operationretirementreadiness.com. Have a question or topic for the podcast? Send it to info@operationretirementreadiness.com. Find out more about Amy and Mike at their websites. Mike is the founder of Next Mission Financial Planning, LLC. He retired from the U.S. Air Force and has worked in the financial services sector since 2021. He is a certified financial planner, chartered financial consultant, and a certified college financial consultant. You can find out more about Mike at nextmissionfinancialplanning.com. Amy is the founder of Instar Financial Planning, LLC. She is retired from the U.S. Army and has worked in the financial services sector since 2019. She's a certified financial planner, a chartered federal employee benefits counselor, and a chartered retirement planning counselor. You can find out more about Amy at instarfp.com.